Hey, good afternoon. This is Jonathan with Payroll Services, LLC. I wanted to take a quick moment and just kind of go over the Families First Corona Response Act and also the new CARES Act with the PPP loan. Getting a lot of questions, so I hope that this can clarify a few things. So to get started, let me go ahead and share my screen here. And we're just going to go over some of the basics here to kind of help you. So the first part of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act really goes over paid sick leave and who is required to take care of it and who is not. Let me close some of these things out here. On this screen here, we have a nice chart that's going to break things out for you. And again, it's going to go over the sick leave for it. So first off, any employer with less than 499 employees must abide by this rule. It is broken up into two sections. We call the first one sick leave, and then the second one the FMLA. So we're going to focus on the first one, which is the paid sick leave. The reasons for this are pretty specific. The employee can get up to 80 hours of paid time off for sick leave if it is subject to a government quarantine or advised to self-quarantine by a medical provider. There has been clarity that this is not considered a business being shut down because they're non-essential. And so just be mindful of that. A self-quarantine could be anything where, the employee comes back from overseas and they have to self-quarantine for 14 days and they can't work. That would be a reason for number one. There also, the other reason is experiencing any type of the COVID symptoms and they're seeking medical care. The big one with this that we keep hearing is, well, what if my employee just says that they're sick for the symptoms? Right now, there's nothing we can really do about that. The regulation does state that there is no doctor's note required. So you're going to have to just take it and just kind of deal with it, unfortunately, with this. If they have any of these two symptoms in here, they are going to be eligible for 100% of their pay up to $511 a day or a $5,100 max. And you can see that in the chart where it's talking about how much to pay. The other thing with this rule is that employees are not allowed or they're not able to take company PTO before they take this. So the federal PTO takes precedent rather than the companies. The second side of the paid sick leave is for if an individual is caring for someone that is mandated to be quarantined or advised to quarantine, essentially sick as well, or if they're caring for an employee, caring for an employee's child due to school closure or childcare that's not available. Right now, that is a very, very big issue right now because a lot of schools are closed. Again, this would make them eligible for up to 80 hours for full-time employees at 2/3 the rate of pay, up to $200 a day or a $2,000 maximum. So that's how those two reasons work. For part-time employees, it's based off of the regular scheduled hours times 2, essentially. So if somebody works 15 hours a week, then they would be eligible for 30 hours of these paid sick leaves for it. There is a little bit of confusion for employers under 50 employees. The DOL guidelines do state that everybody has to abide by it. You cannot exempt out of these first two areas for the sick leave, that everybody has to abide by it. The second part of this is the expanded FMLA, and that is where employers with under 50 employees can opt out of it if they get an exemption from DOL. There has been no guidelines on that. The guidance that was given is if it jeopardizes the company. Outside of that, we really can't give you guidance until DOL provides additional information about that. Essentially, the FMLA portion is expanding traditional FMLA provisions for 50 plus employees to that 499 group. If you do get the exemption, that you wouldn't have to worry about it, but all the FML for the expanded portion is, again, based off of traditional FMLA law. The one thing that is interesting about this is with the paid sick leave, they can work, one day and then claim for that they're sick for up to the 80 hours. With the expanded FMLA, they must have worked 30 days prior to requesting the FMLA. And this one is specifically for caring for children when school is closed or if there's no child care. Again, that's going to cover most of America at this point right now with it. The interesting thing with this is that the first 2 weeks are unpaid, so first 10 days are unpaid, and then the next 10 weeks are paid, but it's paid at the 2/3 rate. Again, $200 a day or up to $10,000 maximum. Additionally, some of the other information for employers that may not qualify for the exemption under 50 is that you do have to still do the job position protection. So you have to be able to give them a position coming back if it's still there or something that's equal. Additionally, you do have to follow up with that employee for up to a year if a new position does come open that they would qualify for. So that's something to remember with it. Now, the thing about with the FFCRA is that any of these wages that you pay are 100% credited, or what we call a tax offset. So what happens here is let's say that you have a $10,000 payroll, and out of that $10,000, you have $3,000 of taxes, okay? So we call that our tax liability. And out of that $10,000 in wages, $2,000 of it was paid for paid sick or the FMLA. That $2,000 would directly offset your $3,000 in tax liability, so you would only pay $1,000. And so that's something just to be mindful of when you're taking a look at this, that it is a credit directly against your tax liabilities. Now, you can file for what's called an accelerated refund for this tax liabilities, but we don't know how long that's going to be and what accelerated really means. What we are presuming is that at the end of the quarter, there will be a new line on the quarterly tax return that say, hey, this is the amount of credit to give back to the employer. And then if you requested an accelerated refund, we're assuming that the IRS is going to reconcile that somehow. But again, there's no guidance on that. So it's pretty straightforward. I just want to make sure it's clarified that, again, even employers with less than 50 employees do have to abide by the paid sick leave, but they may get an exemption for the expanded FMLA. The second thing I want to kind of just talk about briefly is the CARES Act with the Payroll Protection Program. Obviously, this is the biggest one because employers need cash right now. That loan is going to be up to a maximum of 2.5 times your payroll cost based off of the average of last year's payroll. So what they're going to do is they say, okay, did you get the loan? If you're going for the loan on April 1st, they're going to want to see a payroll report from April 1st through March 31st, and then they're going to average out the wages for it. Whatever the monthly average is they're going to multiply that by 2.5, and then that would be the maximum loan amount. Now, I do want to just kind of preface this by saying we are not a bank, and the SBA is creating new guidelines and how this is going to be administered, and each bank may do things a little bit different. So you're going to want to talk to your bank about it. There's a couple things that you need to be mindful of with the FFCRA as well as the CARES Act. Any wages that you pay for sick leave or expanded FMLA and you claim a credit for, you cannot use that to offset that PPP loan. So the PPP loan, again, the Payroll Protection Program, is a forgivable loan as long as you use those funds for payroll cost, rent, utilities, and there is a mortgage area on that, but that I'm going to let you talk to your accountant or the banker about. If you get a credit, you cannot use the portion of paid sick leave to offset that forgiveness on that loan. So when you're working out these strategies of how you're going to do this, you just need to make sure that you're mindful that any paid leave wages that you pay out and you request a credit for are not forgivable under the PPP. Those are the big ones with it. Outside of that, please let us know if you have any questions about the sick leave or the expanded FMLA, as well as with the PPP. We're here to be a resource. Again, we're not a bank, so we can only give you so much guidance with it. And just kind of keep watching our newsletters. You'll see additional guidelines that are coming out, and we are sending out reports to our customers to try to help prepare them for the PPP loan process. We do expect those guidelines to change, and we do expect you to need additional reporting, and we are getting those out as quickly as possible. I hope this was helpful for you. Thank you very much.